They say one is measured by how they spend their last days, Stark. How will you size up, I wonder? Do you know how many Iron Men I have seen in their final moments? Last chance to stand down. Last chance to save yourself. Today on the Comic Book Report, Avengers by Jonathan Hickman Omnibus Volume 2 from Marvel Comics. Stick around and check it out. Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I'm back in the world of Marvel Comics, specifically looking at the back half of the Avengers run by Jonathan Hickman. If you've been watching the channel recently, you might have seen me drop Volume 1 as a review. I assured you that I would be reviewing not only this Volume 2, but the recently released Secret Wars Omnibus as well. And I'm really eager to talk about today's collection. If you're wondering, of course, this does pick up directly after the Volume 1 Omnibus, and it leads right into Jonathan Hickman's 2015 Secret Wars event. But more on that in a few moments. Before we start today's Omnibus review, I would just like to shout out the channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can find a link to them in the video's description, and if you see anything on that site you like, you can actually use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's Avengers review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The comics in this volume were written by Jonathan Hickman, with art from Salvador Larroca, Jim Cheung, Stefano Caselli, Mike Deodato Jr., and more. The comics in this collection were published by Marvel Comics beginning in 2013. As far as what this omnibus includes, it collects Avengers, the 2012 series issues 24 through 44, and New Avengers, the 2013 series issues 13 through 33. And finally, this omnibus is an oversized hardcover edition with beautiful glossy print paper stock, a sewn binding, and a total of 1,088 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first look at the front cover for today's omnibus. I should say right from the jump that this is the standard edition cover for this release. I'll throw up a quick thumbnail of the direct market cover as well that was available. I'm not sure, I think that this one might still be in stock. If I'm not mistaken, this was the 2023 reprint of these omnibuses. I really like it though. I think it's a really sleek design. The artwork looks kind of mythic or epic, which absolutely fits this omnibus. Good stuff. Now transitioning to the spine design, of course we have the Marvel Omnibus logo up top, a field of white with the blue Avengers by Jonathan Hickman. We have part of the Avengers logo at the bottom with a black number 2. I think for the direct market cover, the font might be black as well, if I'm not mistaken. Now on earlier printings, I do believe the Avengers logo lined up between volume 1 and 2. This 2023 reprint though is a little bit off center. I still think it looks great on the bookcase, but that is something to note for collectors. And on the back cover of the dust jacket, we have a little bit of a blurb about this collection, some reviews, and then on the bottom we have what is collected along with some of the creators, the age rating, Marvel logo, pricing information, and of course an incredible image of Doctor Doom himself. Really love this. I think it's a really evocative back cover, absolutely sells the collection for me. I think it looks really crisp, and overall, yeah, I just think it's a really well-designed dust jacket, other than again that alignment issue with the spine logo issue with Volume 1. And while we're talking about the book's exteriors, I did want to spend one final minute on it. This time I'm going to show you the dust jacket with the interior flaps, showing a bit more about the collection and its creators. I will go ahead and begin to open up the dust jacket as well in full so you can see everything at a glance. Now admittedly this is a bit more impressive with wraparound dust jacket images, but I still think it's important. Again, it gives you an idea of what you can expect for this release and what it all looks like. I'm personally a huge fan of the art they selected for the front and back cover of the dust jacket. It looks really striking. Under the dust jacket, though, on the hardback book itself, I wanted to give you all a look at that. So this is a field of white with a big Avengers A logo in a kind of bluish tint. We have some imagery within that logo as well, which is cool. The logo does dip a little bit into where the spine is, and then the back of the hardback is just completely blank white. You spread it all out, it's just a really striking Avengers logo, pretty similar to the Volume 1. There are some subtle differences, of course, but overall, really like the design. Okay, and now transitioning to that sewn binding, I wanted to go ahead and give you all a look, and in the interest of full transparency, I did just want to show my binding is coming off a bit on the ribbon there. I might have to use some PVA glue to get this thing fixed up and just kind of a little more secure. I didn't necessarily have issues while reading, but it's something I want to be mindful of just so this collection doesn't fall apart in the future. I'm not sure if mine is kind of a one-off or if this was a recurring problem with this release. And now that I've completed a look at the build of the book, I thought I would go ahead and show this Volume 2 Omnibus next to the aforementioned Volume 1 of this Avengers Hickman run, as well as my copy of the recently released Secret Wars Omnibus, also by Jonathan Hickman. I'll show these all at a glance, as well as showing you the spines and the issue I mentioned where the Avengers A logo doesn't quite align across the Volume 1 and Volume 2. I still think it looks really good, but again, just so you can get a glance and understand what I'm talking about. And again, if you want to check out my review of Volume 1, you can find that on the channel, or I can try to link the review to this video as well. But after looking at that, we can go ahead and jump into today's review. Okay, and as we open up today's Omnibus edition, we have some white end pages, a little bit of a title page of sorts, and then we do have a 2-page kind of creator breakdown publication information page. It shows how the issues are kind of laid out or mapped, again, which creators are associated with that, and then we jump right into the collection. I am happy to say we do have a bit of a previously on Jonathan Hickman's Avengers, which is kind of nice if it's been a while since you've read the Volume 1, or if, and I wouldn't recommend this case, or if you just had the Volume 2 and you are trying to catch up. This will serve as a little bit of an exposition dump that will kind of refresh you on some of the ongoing plot threads that we have dangling from the Volume 1. A note about this omnibus as well, like I think all of the other Jonathan Hickman omnibus collections from Marvel, he does not like to have the issue covers punctuating the issues. Rather, he saves the covers for the back of the collection to give you more of a seamless reading experience. In lieu of the actual issues and kind of breaks like that, we do have kind of chapter breaks that have their own headers and sometimes art, but other than that, we don't have the issue breaks. So it can be at times a little bit hard to know when you're on which issue, especially when we don't have something like a page numbered table of contents. And again, for fans of issue covers, of which I am one, of course, we do have the issue covers presented at the back as part of the bonus material, which you'll see toward the back of the video. But I wanted to note that in case I was flipping through and you're just like, hey, where are the covers? That's just a little bit of a note. Alrighty, now as we jump into the collection as far as the storytelling here, I do want to say this is a spoiler-filled review, so I am going to be jumping around, talking about plot points, my thoughts on them, things like that. To talk about the Volume 2 as well, I might have to spoil some of Volume 1, so you've just kind of been advised. So Volume 1 ended basically with the entire Infinity event with Thanos and everything, a really fantastic resolution to the Volume 1. I mentioned it in that overview, or that review rather, that I felt like Volume 1 had some kind of conclusive feelings to it. Like you got to finish like a huge crescendoed arc while you still had a lot of the multiverse incursion, everything leading into Secret War stuff still happening. So I thought the Volume 1 ended at a very logical point, and I was eager to jump into Volume 2 and see where we'd start from there. Now, as I expected, we do jump really heavy into a lot of multiverse-based storytelling in this Volume 2. And admittedly, in fiction, especially in the world of comics, I have a little bit of multiverse fatigue right now, but that being said, this was probably the best execution of a multiverse I have seen in some time. I put it up there with like Infinite Crisis as probably my favorite incarnation of a comic book multiverse. I was just really impressed with the scope of what Jonathan Hickman was able to accomplish here. So early in this volume, we do have a kind of Iron Man sent from the future that comes into the present day. That leads to a lot of interesting questions regarding what's going on in the future. Clearly there is a future, so does that mean that they stopped the Incursion crisis? And to set that up a little bit, if you didn't see my Volume 1 review, essentially in the world of the Marvel Universe, or rather multiverse, They are finding, and by they I mean Marvel's Illuminati, the kind of elite ruling body of characters in the Marvel Universe who kind of handle existential threats. On that roster right now in Hickman's run are characters like Beast from X-Men, Doctor Strange, Mr. Fantastic, Namor, Iron Man, Black Bolt from the Inhumans. Might be missing one or two, hopefully not, but basically they become aware that there is a multiversal threat where these things are happening called incursions, where two universes are about to collide together, and basically an Earth appears in orbit above their main Earth, and they have, I think, something like 8 hours to basically destroy that other Earth, or they themselves are destroyed. And if neither Earth destroys the other one, the Earths collide and both multiverses, or both universes, are destroyed. But if one Earth destroys the other one, then just that Earth is destroyed. The original universe who destroyed the Earth, or is still there, will get to survive, and the universe in the other universe will survive. It's just like you lose one total planet. Anyway, it's a huge crisis because this is cascading across the entire multiverse, and they start to realize that eventually there needs to be some kind of defense here, because eventually there's going to be populated Earths, and there might be Earths that are full of noble people, not just villains or an empty planet, and they have to do something about it. We've had a couple incursions stopped in the first volume, but it seems to be escalating or accelerating, and it's just becoming a lot more dire. So that's really the huge ticking clock mechanic at the back of this book, and everything ultimately funnels down to dealing with this incursion multiversal crisis on the way into Secret Wars. And I should mention that, for those that are wondering, the Secret Wars event is kind of like the culmination of Jonathan Hickman's run on Avengers, and to an extent as well his run on Fantastic Four. Everything kind of funnels into Secret Wars. Can you read it by itself? I believe so. It's like a 9-issue series with a kind of 0 issue. That's how I actually read it. I reviewed Secret Wars in a paperback collection before I ever read his Avengers run. But now that I'm reading the Avengers run, I do wish I had read it in order. This would be my preference because so much builds into that event, and there's a lot of characters or dynamics or things in play that I was sort of mystified by in Secret Wars that makes so much more sense in the context of the greater Avengers narrative that's spelled out across this run. Okay, back to the story though. I'm going to be jumping around with just some of my favorite bits of this omnibus. Obviously, there's a lot of storytelling I could really sink deeper into and talk about. But again, the basic kind of plot here is that the incursion crisis is growing and still happening. The Illuminati is struggling to hold themselves together. They've made kind of multiversal bombs, and they've really kind of tried to examine the darker sides of their nature and sort of the utilitarian, what lengths are they willing to go to save their own world. And what does that mean about them? They've tried to remain hidden, but we've had threats to the secrecy of the Illuminati and these incursions and what's going on throughout the pages of this book. There's a point earlier in this as well where you basically find out that there's an incursion about to happen, and this world that they're about to collide with has its own League of Heroes who are in some ways kind of interesting analogs to DC Comics characters, which I did notice and think was really amusing. But it's a really virtuous and kind of noble world, and the Illuminati is kind of having to deal with the ethics of how do we handle this. So the incursion starts up, they go over, and initially it seems like it's a mission of diplomacy, but the other universe is skeptical, wanting to believe the best in their nature, and they ultimately start talking about, well, what are your contingencies here? And the other universe says, we don't really have any, what are you talking about? And their universe is like, what about you guys? And they're like, well, we have a bomb. And immediately diplomacy kind of unravels in spite of what could be their best intentions, and ultimately all-out war kind of breaks out between this planet and the other. This is really gnarly. We get to see what's happened to Doctor Strange, where apparently he traded some of his souls for greater power, or part of his soul for greater power. A lot of just the Illuminati characters start to come unglued, because now they're fighting other heroes, and what does that make them? And it all kind of came down to this. This is sort of one of their worst case scenarios of, okay, do we have to activate the bomb? Do we actually have to destroy, if not an innocent world, at least kind of a noble one that's populated with heroes and things that are trying to do the best they can? And ultimately, they are able to defeat the heroes on this other planet, and they have the bomb, and all that's left to do is detonate it. And one by one, every character in the Illuminati just fails. And I forgot to mention a really important member of the Illuminati, of course, T'Challa, the Black Panther. It seems like he is going to take on the responsibility to detonate their weapons so that their universe can survive. And at the last minute, he is unable to, But rest assured, Namor picks it up and has a speech about how none of them are innocent, and he'll take the brunt of it, and he detonates the bomb. And he ultimately kills this other universe. It ends the incursion, and it kind of completely cripples and just kind of breaks down the Illuminati. After this point, they basically vilify Namor. Him and Black Panther reach kind of a boiling point, and it gets really ugly. A lot of people in this group can no longer deal with what this whole situation has revealed to themselves, and everything kind of just falls apart from there. Also in this omnibus, one of my favorite arcs is where Steve Rogers, Captain America, finds out what the Illuminati has done to him. Earlier in Volume 1, he was actually part of the Illuminati, but when they found out about the incursions and some of the things they might have to do, Captain America was the only dissenting voice that said, we can't do that. That sacrifices who we are and our character, and they decide to memory wipe him and keep going without him. Well, Steve Rogers has dreams, and he starts to remember, and he starts gathering members of the Avengers that he believes are loyal to him, and he storms Tony's office and basically tries to beat him up and says, I know, I remember. And it is just absolutely bonkers. I loved it. This was a real conflict point. I was waiting to just really come to its fruition, and I was not disappointed here. We also had a story arc around this point where Steve Rogers and a group of Avengers basically, Steve, I think, tries to destroy or accidentally destroys the time stone, and so he gets kind of thrown out of sync with the timeline. So him and these other Avengers get thrown at different points throughout the future. They meet characters like the future Franklin Richards. They meet kind of sentient AI. They meet future Avengers like a future Hawkeye who has a grudge against Iron Man. And it's a really fun kind of time travel based story, and it really centers specifically on Captain America, which, while he wasn't underutilized in Volume 1, I really feel like his usage here picked up, and in ways I really, really liked. This was actually such a fun time travel story, and the fact that Jonathan Hickman's not only tackling multiverse, but also time travel stories and elements, I'm just really impressed at how well it's all handled. Okay, I have to keep going because I know I'm going to run out of time. Other notable story arcs, we basically have Namor defecting away from the Illuminati and ultimately going to the side of Thanos and some of his acolytes. They form an evil, devious group called the Cabal, and we find out that they are going to start taking over the incursion duties, being willing to destroy with glee some of these other worlds and universes. And this is found out by the Avengers when they realize that they're going to let the time run out because they just can't justify killing another world, and the Illuminati is just kind of heartbroken. They want to notify some people so they know to spend their last moments correctly, and it's really kind of a beautiful, what should have been resolution to this story perhaps, but instead the incursion moment happens and it passes and they still exist. They find out that Namor has defected and created this group, the Cabal, with Thanos and his acolytes, and basically they're now taking all of these incursion points and destroying other universes along the way. And now suddenly the Avengers and everyone have to unite to see if they can stop the Cabal, the incursion crises, and deal with all of this strife within the Avengers as a unit. Honestly, I think one of my favorite things about this book I didn't expect was that this was really a logical Marvel Civil War. I didn't realize how much I wanted. Like, this could have easily been a Marvel Civil War 2. This might have been an even more cogent and motivations aligned Civil War than even the first one. I think that the division we have here between Tony and Captain America and some of the people that follow the Illuminati versus the rest of the Avengers, it's a really striking and ideological line that's about saving the whole universe or just kind of having your values and not willing to sacrifice people. Really, really loved it. I love that that was explored here. We have a time jump at one point of about 8 months where everything has kind of continued along this pathway and what happens to the world then. Steve Rogers is now older after the events of, I believe, the Rick Remender Captain America run. But yeah, it's still kind of Stark versus Captain America, and everything comes to blows. They kind of try to figure out what's going on with the incursions, and everything eventually leads into Secret Wars. Basically, at 1.2, Namor tries to get help from Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is having all of his own plans throughout this, where we find out that he is kind of working behind the scenes to try to figure out what's going on, and maybe the Beyonders are involved, and what's going on in the universe beyond space and time, and what's really causing this crisis, what's happening, what is Ant-Man doing here. There's so much more I can't even get to here, but everything funnels into Secret Wars. They ultimately have the last incursion, the last kind of multiversal break here is between the Marvel Ultimate Universe and the 616, and again, everything kind of crashes down around them. We have some great conflicts. I didn't even get to talk about the Hulk joining the Illuminati, but everything is just just really incredible, and ultimately the Avengers seem like they lose, and you're at the gates of Secret Wars at the very end with Captain America fighting Tony, and you're left to just see what happens after everyone loses and everyone dies. At the back of the collection, of course, we have an extensive cover art gallery, variant cover art gallery, different artistic extras and things like that, and while I'm showing them to you, I will just say this was a phenomenal back half of this Avengers run. My only regret on this collection is that they didn't just include the 10 issues for Secret Wars, the 9 of the event, and that 0 issue. I think if you just made this an over big omnibus and just had Secret Wars here with Volume 2, you could have avoided that event omnibus and just had an incredible 2-volume set, but short of that, I do think that this was just a spectacular read. It absolutely made me excited to reevaluate Secret Wars, and yeah, just really, really well done by Jonathan Hickman. Love how he explored all these characters. I also didn't get to mention it enough, but the artists we had throughout this collection I thought all did a phenomenal job. The art did seem to change hands a bit more than even the Volume 1, but again, I thought all the art was pretty strong, and really that is Avengers by Jonathan Hickman, Omnibus Volume 2. Once again, I felt like I could continue talking about this for hours, and maybe I will revisit these on the channel in the future. Now all that's left to do is to give this book a grade. For this stunning, epically scoped Marvel masterpiece, the Comic Book Report is going to give Avengers by Jonathan Hickman, Omnibus Volume 2 an A. This is easily one of my favorite Marvel runs of all time. It is one of the best handlings I've ever seen of multiverse-like stories, time travel stories, and even just Avengers stories. The kind of palpable conflict we got from all of the central heroes I thought was spectacular. The way it elevated the stakes from even the Volume 1 was phenomenal. Again, my biggest drawback is that Secret Wars was not included at the end of this book, because there's a feeling of, not anticlimax, but a little like you're right at the door of what is the actual culmination of this whole run in Secret Wars, so the book kind of ends. You need to read the next part. This run was still fantastic. I still really enjoyed how he ended it, but you need that closure by reading Secret Wars, and I think that could have elevated this to probably an A+ collection for me if you threw in the Secret Wars issues. As it stands, though, still a fantastic read. I loved it. I'd actually like to hear your thoughts on this as well. Did you read the Avengers run by Jonathan Hickman? I'd love to hear thoughts, and yeah, that's all I have to say for now. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like, that comment we talked about, and maybe share this video with a friend. Thanks everyone, now on to Secret Wars.